Hello, everyone. I got an issue that I think is quite surprising. There is an issue that the newly released Israeli hostages admitted that they were hidden in United Nations shelters, precisely in Unrwa. This is quite surprising and terrifying. It turns out that all this time Unrwa has been a place for holding hostages. Let's watch the news together until the end. This is from EuropeanConservative.com. Another Unrwa scandal. Israeli hostages say they were hidden in UN shelter. The UN agency doesn't just support Hamas, but is a front for the terrorist group. After a string of scandals, will it finally be the end of the line for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, now that Israeli hostages have claimed they were held at one of its refugee camps? Don't hold your breath. Israel's Channel 13 network reported on Wednesday that during their 471 days in captivity, which ended in the gift of terrorist-branded goodie bags, Emily Damari, 28, Romy Gonen, 24, and Doron Steinbrecher, 31, were hidden for part of the time in UN shelters. The terrorists took advantage of the UN camps to house the kidnapped women there, knowing that the Israel Defense Forces would not attack the compound, thereby providing security for themselves as well. Unrwa, some of whose staff were reportedly involved in the October 7th pogrom and now meet regularly with Hamas terrorists, runs 8 such camps in Gaza. It is not yet clear which were, if not are, used to hold Israeli hostages. Richard Goldberg, who is senior advisor to the Washington Pro-Israeli Foundation for Defense of Democracies, said the revelation means, "We need to stop thinking about UNRWA as merely a supporter of Hamas and start internalizing the extent to which the agency is a front for Hamas." American-Israeli journalist Emily Schrader added that, "This should tell you indisputably what UNRWA really does in Gaza, assist Hamas." The news came just one day after the British government, which has handed millions of pounds in taxpayer cash to the UN agency, urged Israel not to endanger UNRWA's ability to operate. The mood could not be more different in Washington, where newly inaugurated President Donald Trump halted funding to Unrwa, among other foreign assistance programs, on his first day in office. Elise Stefanik, his pick for U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, has bashed the organization as a den of anti-Semitism. The freed hostages are currently undergoing medical tests and receiving additional vitamins due to poor conditions during their time in captivity. A total of 33 Israeli hostages are set to be released in exchange for 737 Palestinian prisoners, jihadi terrorists among them, in the first stage of the ceasefire, so long as it holds up. UNRWA representatives did not respond to our request for comment. This is from FDD.org. Den of anti-Semitism. Hamas held Israeli hostages in UNRWA camps. Israeli hostages held in UN camp. The 3 female Israeli hostages released last weekend following the ceasefire in Gaza revealed on January 21st that they were incarcerated in a refugee camp operated by UNRWA, the United Nations agency catering exclusively to the descendants of Palestinian refugees, for part of their time in Hamas captivity, according to Israel's Channel 13 network. Details as to which of the 8 camps run by Unrwa in Gaza were made available. Following the October 7th, 2023 atrocities committed by Hamas in Israel, in which several UNRWA employees participated, Israel accused the agency of actively colluding with the Iran-backed terrorist organization, passing legislation last October barring it from operating in the Jewish state. Trump or funding. Newly inaugurated President Donald Trump halted U.S. funding for UNRWA via an executive order on his first day in office on January 20th. Elise Stefanik, Trump's nominee for U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, strongly criticized UNRWA and labeled the United Nations a den of anti-Semitism during her Senate confirmation hearing on January 21st. Hamas kept hostages in hospitals. According to an exclusive report from Fox News Digital, Hamas terrorists captured by Israel confessed that Israeli hostages had been imprisoned in the Kamal Adwan hospital in northern Gaza at different times during their ordeal. Anas Mohammed Faiz al-Sharif, one of the terrorists in Israeli custody, was quoted as describing the hospital, which was raided by IDF troops on December 28th, resulting in the arrest of more than 200 terrorists as a safe haven for them because the Israeli military cannot directly target it. We already knew that Unrwa employed Hamas terrorists, shared its infrastructure with Hamas, and allowed Hamas to use its facilities as bases of operations. Now we learn it also provided a safe haven for Hamas to hold hostages. We need to stop thinking about Unrwa as merely a supporter of Hamas and start internalizing the extent to which the agency is a front for Hamas. Richard Goldberg, FDD Senior Advisor. Hamas is playing with house money by using Unrwa facilities as cover. If Israel tries to rescue its hostages, it risks harming bystanders in a UN facility. If Israel chooses to avoid this risk, Hamas benefits from its use of human shields by retaining Israeli hostages in captivity. And international media, humanitarian groups, and the United Nations reward this strategy when they criticize Israel for operating in humanitarian zones that Hamas has turned into battlefields. David May, research manager and senior research analyst. This is from Fox News. Israeli intel indicates Hamas held hostages at New Gaza Hospital as UN Health Agency criticized for inaction. Expert calls on Trump UN pick Elise Stefanik to launch investigation into UN agencies on Hamas's use of Gaza hospitals. With the first 3 Israeli hostages freed in the ceasefire for hostages deal, Fox News Digital has exclusively learned that several terrorists captured by Israeli forces last month confessed that Israeli captives were held at different times at the Kamal Adwan hospital in northern Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, recently completed a major raid on the hospital, arresting some 240 terrorists. The director of the hospital, Hussam Abu Safia, the Israelis claim, had gathered intelligence showing that he not only allowed Hamas to infiltrate the hospital, but actively collaborated with the terror group. Another captured terrorist, Anas Mohammed Faiz al-Sharif, who worked at the hospital as a cleaning supervisor and joined the Nukba forces of Hamas's Al-Qassam brigades in 2021, told Israeli interrogators that the northern Gaza facility was viewed as a safe haven for them because the Israeli military cannot directly target it. He revealed that inside the hospital, terrorists distributed grenades and mortars, along with equipment for ambushing IDF troops and tanks. Fox News Digital asked a World Health Organization (WHO) spokesman if, based on the IDF's new allegations about holding hostages at Adwan Hospital, they would condemn Hamas's use of hospitals for military use. In a statement, the spokesman said, "The international humanitarian law is very clear. Healthcare workers and healthcare facilities are off-limits. They must not be attacked. They must not be used for military purposes. They must be protected at all times. The point is both to protect civilians as well as to protect the health systems and infrastructure that communities depend on for life-giving care and continuity of services. Failure to protect and respect healthcare devastates twice. First in the initial harm, and then again for the months or years it takes to rebuild the health systems." The statement concluded without condemning or singling out Hamas. The protection of healthcare also includes the prohibition against combatants using health facilities for military purposes. IHL is also clear that even if healthcare facilities are being used for military purposes, there are stringent conditions which apply to taking action against them. Including a duty to warn and to wait after warning, and even then, disproportionate attacks are strictly prohibited. Richard Goldberg, a senior advisor at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and former Trump National Security Council official, claimed several international organizations operating in Gaza likely had direct knowledge of Hamas using hospitals as terror headquarters and only publicly protested Israel's attempt to clear the terrorists. The Red Cross, Unrwa, World Health Organization, they were all collaborators. Goldberg offered advice for President Trump's pick for UN Ambassador, Elise Stefanik, who goes before the Senate on Tuesday. Stefanik would be fully justified in launching investigations into each of those agencies, demanding documents and personnel interviews. And if they don't comply, they can deal with the consequences. One of Trump's first acts on Monday was to withdraw the US from the WHO. During the months-long IDF operation in northern Gaza, more than 700 terrorists were detained, including Hamas commanders, some of whom participated in the October 7, 2023 massacre in southern Israel. More than a dozen of those captured were involved in kidnapping or holding Israeli hostages in Gaza. During the operation, the IDF located and destroyed thousands of weapons, including RPGs stashed within the hospital itself. The aim of the campaign was to completely defeat Hamas's Northern Brigade and remove the terror group's presence from within the civilian population. IDF troops conducted raids ranging from a few hours up to a full day. During the longer ones, they entered the hospital and searched for weapons and terrorists. Former Shin Bet agent Gonen Ben Itzhak, who was the handler of former Hamas informant Mossab Hassan Youssef, the son of a Hamas founder, told Fox News Digital. Using visual intelligence, it's easy to see when Hamas brings guns and ammunition into the hospital, and even with one human source, you can get intel on what is happening inside. From a signal point of view, the terrorists use phones and walkie-talkies, which can be intercepted. Almost no fighting took place inside the hospital, from which some 950 people were eventually evacuated, all before the IDF's final raid. Since then, the Israeli military has facilitated and secured the transfer of the hospital's operations to the nearby Indonesian hospital at the request of the Palestinians. Even as the United Nations and the international community condemned Jerusalem for its anti-terrorism campaign at Kamal Adwan, a former Palestinian Authority official told Fox News Digital that Hamas's use of hospitals was immoral and known to endanger patients and health workers. Adnan al-Damiri recently went viral on social media after the Israel-based Palestinian Media Watch organization flagged his Facebook post showing that Hamas had summoned a Gazan reporter for questioning to Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in the southern strip. I made this post to show Palestinians that Hamas is doing everything against the people of Gaza, including in hospitals. Hamas claims its struggle is against the Israeli occupation, but the fact is, they use our people, al-Damiri said. He noted that the document posted to social media was sent to him by a friend of the Gazan who was summoned for interrogation. I know that it's a real document. I am not afraid of Hamas, he added. In December 2023, Ahmed Kalut, then director of Kamal Adwan Hospital, told his Israeli interrogators that he and other staff were Hamas operatives. Kalut described how Hamas used ambulances to hide operatives, transport terrorist squads, and deliver a kidnapped IDF soldier. Bassem Naim, a member of Hamas's political bureau in Gaza, told Fox News Digital that his resistance movement understands very well the importance of respecting international humanitarian law and its obligations, and understands very well the needs of our people for civil services and the importance of protecting them. I can confidently say that Hamas hasn't used any hospital as a military base or a shelter for fighters, he continued. Regarding all the aggressions against hospitals in the Gaza Strip, Israel wasn't able in any case to prove or to give serious or neutral evidence for its claims, he said. We call for the immediate release of Abu Safia, director of Kamal Adwan Hospital, who was kidnapped by Israeli forces with dozens of other medics. Israel is fully responsible and accountable for their lives. Dr. Safia isn't a Hamas member, added Naim. A month after Hamas's October 7, 2023 massacre, the IDF already began publishing evidence of Hamas's use of hospitals, in particular for terror purposes. In one recording from November 2023, a Gaza health official can be heard confirming that Hamas had stored more than 500,000 litres, over 132,000 gallons of fuel under Shifa Hospital, the Strip's largest medical centre. Hamas was accused of systematically turning Shifa into a major command center and even storing weapons in the MRI building. On November 19, 2023, the IDF released surveillance footage of armed terrorists bringing hostages into Shifa. The IDF discovered the remains of 2 Israeli hostages, Noah Marciano and Yehudit Weiss, in the vicinity of Shifa last year. So the information revealed from various sources strongly suggests that Hamas has been using civilian facilities, including hospitals, for military purposes and hostage-taking. Evidence from investigations and statements by several parties points to serious violations of international humanitarian law. This highlights the urgent need for stricter oversight of organizations operating in conflict zones like Gaza. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to stay critical and seek the truth behind every piece of information. If you found this content helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest videos. See you in the next video, and God bless.